I'd now like to discuss a number of events with you, sir. Do you recall being at a shot house in November of 2009 where a shooting occurred? Yes. Can you tell us first, what is a shot house, as you understand it? It's a party with someone throw a party and they sell liquor and food. And do you remember where this shot house was located, sir? River Trace. If I could show you what's been previously introduced as F1B. Mr. Ashby, if you look at F1B, do you recognize that, sir? Yes. And what is it? River Trace Apartments. And was the shot house located within those apartments? Yes. Mr. Ashby, were there other members of Thug Relations there at that shot house on November 15, 2009? Yes. And do you remember who was present, sir? Robbie Bowles, Douglas Ashby, Kenneth Jones, me, and Herbert Pridgeon. Does Kenneth Jones have a nickname? AU. If we can show Mr. Ashby what has been previously admitted as L52. Do you recognize L52, Mr. Ashby? AU. How long had you been at the shot house that evening, sir? How long were you there that night? About an hour. Is this an after-hours club? Nah, just someone's apartment and they were selling liquor and food out their apartment. And do you remember where you were in the apartment? In the back room. And what were you doing in the back room? Smoking weed. And did you see Herbert Pridgeon in the shot house that night? Yes. Was he upset about something? Yes. What was he upset about? Well, someone walked in and made him upset. And do you know who it was that walked in? Hines. And do you recognize Hines? Yes. If I could show you C11, please. Do you recognize C11, Mr. Ashby? Hines. And did you see Herbert Pridgeon interact with Hines? No. How do you know he was upset after Hines came in? Because he said it. Was Hines there when he said that? No. Okay. Well, what did Herbert Pridgeon say to indicate that he was upset about Hines coming in? He didn't really say nothing. He just said, "Look at that nigga." I'm sorry, sir. Say that again. Look at that nigga. But after he talked about that, after Hines came in, did you see him ask someone for something? Yes. What did you see? Asked AU for a gun. He asked who had a gun. AU gave him a gun. Did you see what kind of gun it was? A 9 Glock. Did you see what color it was? Black. And where was it that AU gave him this gun? In the back room. Mr. Ashby, was AU, Ken Jones, part of Thug Relations? Yeah. Was he in the same group that you described as selling drugs in the cut? Nah. What was his position or association with Thug Relations? A friend. Okay. Was he someone that you and other members of the group hung out with? Yeah. Had you seen AU give people guns before? No. When you saw AU give Herbert Pridgeon the gun, what did you see Herbert Pridgeon do next? Walk out of the room. When did you next see Herbert Pridgeon? After gunshots. How long after Herbert Pridgeon left the room did you hear gunshots, sir? We went out behind him, about 2 minutes after he left out of the apartment. Could you tell where the gunshots were coming from? No, I just heard them. And after you heard the gunshots, what did you do, sir? Me, AU, Robbie, and my brother Mance walked towards the car, and then Bot came and got in. And where was the car, sir? Parked in the parking lot. Whose car was it? AU. And when you went outside the apartments, did you see anything indicating that someone had been shot? No. So you did not see any shooting? Heard it. Okay. And when you went to the car, why did y'all go to the car after hearing the gunshots? Because we knew police was coming. Were you armed that night, sir? Yes. What kind of gun did you have? .357 Taurus. And when you got to the car, how long after you got to the car did you see Herbert Pridgeon? About a minute. And did he say anything when you saw him next? Not at that moment. All right. Did you all get into the car and go somewhere? Yes. Where did you go? My mother's house. Where was your mother's house located at that time? Would you show Mr. Ashbury G12, please? And who was in the car at that point, Mr. Ashby, to go to your mother's house at? Me, AU, Robbie, Mance, Bach. And if you look at G12, do you recognize that, sir? Yes. What is that? How long did it take you to get from the shot house at River Trace? About 3 minutes. And on the way there, was there any discussion about the shooting? Yes. And did Herbert Pridgeon say anything about the shooting? Yes. What did he say? He said he walked up to Hines' car and shot through the driver door. He said he shot through the driver door? Yes. And when you got to the house at Edsel, what did you all do? Went in the garage. And did you stay at that house that night, sir? Or did you go somewhere else? Me and my brother left with some girls. And did you see what Herbert Pridgeon and AU and Robbie Bowles did? They went somewhere else. All right. Let me take you to the next day, November 16th, 2009. Do you remember that day, sir? Yes. Were you back at the house on Edsel Street on that day? Yes. And who of your friends was present on that day? Robbie Bowles, Herbert Pridgeon. And was there a time when the police came to execute a search warrant? Yes. Do you remember what you and your friends were doing before the police came to execute that search warrant? Me and Herbert Pridgeon was in the kitchen. And what about Robbie Bowles? Where was he? In the living room with my brother Mance. And did you have any other brothers that were there that day? Yes. Who was that? Calvin Boyd. Do you remember what Calvin Boyd was doing before the police came? No. Were your parents there that day? Yes. And where were they, sir? Upstairs. Did you have any other siblings there that day? Can't. I don't remember. How were you made aware that the police were coming to do the search warrant? My mother came downstairs and said police was outside. Did you hear anything outside to indicate they were there? No. And when your mother came downstairs, what did you do, sir? I walked to the window and looked out to see how many police was out there, and then I walked back to the kitchen. If we could bring up G12 again, Detective Carucci, and we're going to stick with the G series here for a moment. Mr. Ashby, do you see the window that you walked to and looked out of there, sir? Yes. And which window was it? The big window right here by the door, downstairs. Is it the bay window, sir? Yes. And after you walked back to the kitchen, what did you do next? I pulled my gun up from out my pants, threw it in the trash can. And why'd you do that, sir? Because the police was coming. And when you walked back into the kitchen, was Herbert Pridgeon still there? Yes. And what did you see Herbert Pridgeon do? He seen me put the gun in the trash can, and he took his out and handed it to me to put in there. If I could show you G1A, which has already been admitted, please. Do you recognize that area based on the flooring and the surrounding structures, Mr. Ashby? Yes. What does that show? The kitchen. And trash can. Is that the trash can you put your gun in? Yes. If I could show you G2, please. Mr. Ashby, you recognize those items? Yes. Was one of those guns your gun that you put in the trash can? The silver one. And what about the black one? Who did that belong to? Herbert Pridgeon. Could you tell whether that was the same gun that AU had given to Herbert Pridgeon the night before? Yes. And what's that bag, sir, that's sitting above your gun? What, the marijuana? Do you know whose marijuana that was? No. Sir, when the police came and your mother came down, were you given some direction by the police at some point? They got on the bullhorn and said, residents of come out. Kevin Ashby, come out. And did you follow that instruction? Yes. And did you all go out at the same time? One by one. And when you went outside, did you see where your friends went? Police had them sitting on the curb. And after the police brought you outside, did they go inside the house? Yes. After a period of time, did they come back out to you? Yes. Were you arrested at that point, sir? Yes. Did you see what happened to anybody else at that point? No. Thank you, Detective Carucci. You can take that down. Mr. Ashby, I would like to talk to you next about the murders that you pled guilty to and that related to the murder of Bailey and Robinson. Yeah. Let's first discuss the murder of Bailey on December 15, 2009. Do you remember where that occurred, sir? Trailer park on Jefferson. Were you a shooter in that murder, sir? No. Were you part of the robbery where Bailey was murdered? Yes. Let's talk about the events leading up to the murder, and can you tell us when your involvement in this robbery began? A friend of ours named Monte Banks Grandma lived in the trailer park, and he knew the guy Bailey. And he told me about a home invasion out there. And I told Herbert Pridgeon and Eric Pridgeon about it, and we went out there. Me, Herbert Pridgeon, Eric Pridgeon, and Antonio Johnson, and met up with Monte Banks, and he pointed the trailer out to us, and he went back to his grandma's house. And was this all occurring in one day, sir, or was it over a couple of days? He had been enlightened into the home invasion days before that, but that day he caught me, yeah, that one day. And if I could show you L29, please. Do you recognize L29, Mr. Ashby? Monte Banks. And what was your relationship with Monte Banks? Best friend. Was he a part of thug relations? Yeah, somewhat. What do you mean somewhat, sir? We got some that's mainly a part, like Aqueduct, Warwick Townhouse, the Warwick Lawns guys. They're part of it, but not like how the Aqueduct, Warwick Townhouse got in. All right. How would you characterize Eric Pridgeon in terms of what group he was in? Aqueduct, Warwick Townhouse's group. Was that the main group? Yes. What about Herbert Pridgeon? Same group. What about Maurice McLean? Same group. Okay. What did you understand that the target of this home invasion had that you all could try and take? Marijuana, ecstasy, and coke. And did this opportunity come to you first, sir? Yes. Why did you take this opportunity to the Pridgeons? Those are because that's who I did home invasions with at the time. And what about Antonio Johnson? Was he a part of thug relations? Nah. Why was he permitted to participate in this home invasion robbery? Antonio grew up with us, but he started hanging with dump squad guys, and a lot of guys didn't like that. But me and him were still kind of close, and he was with me at the time, and he wanted to go, so I let him go. What were you hoping to get out of the robbery, sir? Say that again? Sure. What were you hoping to get out of the robbery? Oh, drugs and money. And what were you going to do with the drugs? Sell it. Was Antonio Johnson permitted to sell drugs in the Aqueduct area even though he wasn't a part of TR? At one point in time, he sold drugs with us, but he started hanging with the dump squad. A lot of guys didn't like him out there. Okay, why didn't Monte Banks participate in this home invasion? Because he said it was the same. His grandma lived in the trailer park complex. And sir, you described the trip where you went and he pointed the trailer out to you, correct? Yes. When was that in relation to when the robbery occurred? About 10 minutes before it happened. So the same day? Yes. Sir, do you remember where you had started from that night before you got to the trailer park? Aqueduct. And who was driving? I was. Do you remember what kind of car you had? A gold Taurus. Was that your car? My sister's car. Which sister, sir? Were you armed that night, sir? No. The other three, Antonio or the Pridgeons, did they have a gun? The Pridgeons, but I don't know if Antonio. I can't remember if Antonio was armed or not. Do you know what kind of gun Eric Pridgeon had? 9 Springfield. And is that a semi-automatic or revolver, sir? Semi-automatic. What about Herbert Pridgeon? Did you see what kind of gun he had? A .357 revolver. Okay. Can you tell us what you were wearing that night, sir? What you were wearing? Black pants, black hoodie, black hat. And can you tell us what the others were wearing? Can't remember, but we was in dark colors. Can you tell us whether anyone had gloves on that night? Yes. Who had gloves on? Herbert Pridgeon. Sir, do you remember what time of night it was that you went over to the trailer park? Can't remember the time, but it was dark. And what route did you take from Aqueduct to get to the trailer park? Oyster Point and then Jefferson. And is there only one route from Jefferson to the trailer park? No. Okay. If I could show you Exhibit H1, page 2. Mr. Ashby, if I enlarge this for you, do you recognize this area, sir? Yes. Okay. And do you recall where you parked your car when you got over to the trailer park that night? Over here. Okay. And when you parked your car, who got out? All of us. And how did you approach the trailer? 101 Spur Drive. We walked around the side and through the back and then came on around the other side. Okay. And what was the order that you went up to the trailer? The order? Yes, the order of you and the Pridgeons and Mr. Johnson. I can't recall, but we was all really tucked. All right. If I could show you H2A. Mr. Ashby, do you recognize this outside here? Yes. Tell us how you got into the trailer. Walked up the handicap ramp and went in through the door. How did you get in the door, sir? Eric Pridgeon kicked it in. Was it one kick to open the door, or did it take more than one? I believe one kick. All right. When Eric Pridgeon kicked the door open, where did you see everyone go when they went into the trailer? Eric Pridgeon and Herbert Pridgeon ran to the back. Antonio Johnson searched the living room, and I ran in the kitchen area. If I could show you H3C, please. Mr. Ashby, do you recognize that area, sir? Yes. And what area does that show in the trailer? The living room. And what were you searching for when Antonio Johnson was searching the living room and you were searching the kitchen? Drugs. And when you were in the kitchen, could you see this living room area? Yes. And you said that Eric Pridgeon and Herbert Pridgeon went into the back. Could you see where they were in the back area? No. Could you hear what they were doing back there? Yeah. What could you hear, sir? Hear kids. Heard them telling them to be quiet, get down. Did you hear any other adult voices other than Eric and Herbert Pridgeon? Male and female voices. And what did the other male and female voices you heard sound like? Male and female voices. All right. What was the, little crying, begging? Okay. How long did you stay in the kitchen area, sir? I searched the kitchen area, and then I told Antonio to go outside and look out. And when you went outside, where did you go? I walked down the handicap rail and stood at the end of it. Had you found anything in the kitchen, sir? No. And when you went to that handicap ramp, what was Antonio doing? He was still in the house. And did you see either Eric or Herbert Pridgeon after they went into the back area? Not until after everything was done. When you were on that handicap ramp, sir, what was the next thing you noticed from inside the trailer? I was looking out and I heard a gunshot. Did you hear one gunshot or more than one? I heard pop and then pop, pop. Was there a space between those 3 pops, sir? Yes. Where was the space? Pop, pop, pop. For the record, there was a space between the first pop and the second and third pop. 1 pop and then 2 pops. Okay, and could you tell where the gunshots were coming from? From the back of the trailer. What did you do after you heard the gunshots, sir? I sprinted to the car. And when did you next see Antonio Johnson? He came out a couple of seconds after me. What about the Pridgeons? When did you next see the Pridgeon brothers? They were running behind him. Now, when you parked the car on that portion of the map that you showed us, was it facing a particular direction? Facing, like, the exit? And so when you got in the car, where'd you go? I got lost, and I was trying to get out, and the police sirens was getting closer and closer, and I finally found a way out, and as I was turning out, police was turning in. And when you were lost, how were you driving when you were lost, sir? It was speed bumps, so I slow down, go up, slow down, go up. When you all first got in the car, was there any discussion about what happened in the trailer? No, we was just trying to get out of there because the sirens was getting closer and closer. And did you see any police cars, sir? Not until I was turning on Jefferson and they were turning in. And when you turned on Jefferson, which way did you turn to go, sir? Turn right, like going down towards J. Clyde. And where did you end up driving to? Turned on J. Clyde and drove to Aqueduct. How long was the drive from the town home? Oh, I'm sorry, the mobile park home to Aqueduct? 5, 6, 7 minutes. Now, in that 5, 6, 7-minute drive, was there any discussion about what happened in the trailer? I asked him what happened, and Eric Pridgeon said, this dumbass nigga stabbed him. Who was he referring to? Bach. And what else did he say, sir? He said when he stabbed him, he lunged up and he shot him, and then Bach shot him 2 times. And what did Bach say, if anything? He said why he stabbed him, and he said he always wanted to see how it felt to stab somebody.